Welcome! Today I'm going to teach you how to do this really cool geometric shape animation, and you should be able to find the files in the description. So if you go to this video's description and kind of scroll down a little bit, there's a bit.ly link and you can download the files from my Google Drive. And let me show you what we're going to make. It's so exciting. This was created by Eddy Koek. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's based out of Utrecht. He's a senior motion designer, and I just love this piece. My buddy Anthony, who is a Koek Effects student currently in the Illustrator for After Effects class. Hi, Anthony. He introduced me to Eddy, and I'm just a huge fan. So let me show you the Illustrator file. So the Illustrator file, which is in our assets folder. If you just go to our simple shapes animation assets, I've saved it out two ways, the 2020 version of Illustrator and the 2018 version of Illustrator, okay? And let me tour you through this Illustrator file real quick. So we have a background layer, and then I have each of these individual stripes as separate layers here. Then I have individual layers each for the balls. Then it goes to 4. We've got 4 stripes. We've got 4 balls. And then I did 2 stripes. And then I did 2 balls. 1 stripe, 1 ball. Okay. I also have a layer of screen grabs because yes, we're going to be cheating a little bit today. We're going to be frequently looking back at Eddy's project and just seeing how he set the thing up. Okay, so let's get started. Here I have After Effects version 2020, but I have a starter project for both 2020 and version 2018. So if you go into the, After Effects projects folder, there is one called Project Start, copy CC15X. That's for folks who are on 2018 version. And then we have the Start, which is the 2020 version. Okay, let me double click on that. And let's go full screen. Oh yeah. All right, so here's what I've got set up for you guys. I already imported the layered file using the retain layer option. So under file import, I'm just going over how I had set this up so that you're not like, wait, what did you do without me? So inside here, I took that Illustrator file, and under import as, I had chosen composition retain layer sizes. Now this is what you should choose whenever you have final artwork where the dimensions of each layer is not going to change. So that's what I did. Okay, I'm going to hit cancel because I already got it here. I also color coded the layers, which helps with what I call layer clutter. So I like my composition timeline to be a little bit tidy, and I also want to be able to see everything all at once. So I color code my layers, and I do that using the luggage tag section right here. This little chip, I choose the color from over there. Okay, awesome. So I've got my layers all ready to go, and I've got my reference video as well. So if we just solo that, you'll see that it's the same thing I just showed you guys. And it starts with just the navy blue screen, and then the stripes, and 8 balls fall down, then 4, then 2, then 1. Okay, so before we begin, it's very important that your After Effects and mine work the same. So I'm just going to go up to my preferences. On a Mac, they would be in your After Effects menu, all right? You're going to go over to Preferences, you're going to go over to General, and in the General Preferences, you're going to go to Create Layers at Composition Start Time. I want that to be on, okay? That's going to make things much easier throughout if you have that turned on, okay? And I'm going to hit OK to that. And I'm not using any plugins, I'm not using any specialty effects or anything like that, all right? I'm going to turn off the screen grabs, and we are going to start just by like keeping that little reference video up, and I'm going to turn off all the visibilities for everything down through layer 16. Okay, so we're going to start with layer 17, and that is the 8 ball situation. So I'm going to set this to fit. There we go. And then we've got our 8 balls, and they're going to fall from the ceiling, and they're going to land right here. Now here's the thing, everything is only moving vertically. There's no horizontal movement for this entire animation. So I'm going to make things a little bit easier for us by separating every layer's dimensions in the position property. This way we're only working with the vertical. Here's how. You're going to select all your layers. So you go to the edit menu, you choose select all, it selects all the layers, and then you can hit letter P for position. Okay, and you see position is expressed in terms of horizontal and vertical. Now we don't need position keyframes on our reference video, so don't worry about that, nor do we need it on our screen grabs, but we do need it on all the other layers except the background. Okay, let's select all the position properties. Now you could do it really slow by clicking and command or control clicking on each and every one of these, but that takes forever and you got better things to do. So what you're going to do instead is draw a big old box around these I-beams. You see that? And if you have any questions as I'm going through this stuff, please drop it in the chat. I have an eye open. I keep looking over and checking out the chat. So I'm just going to take my mouse, drag over to one side, and then go up. And I'm going to keep going up, 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 up until I get all of those I-beams. And what that does is it also selects the position property. Then I'm going to right click and choose separate dimensions. Okay, and that separates our position property into an X position and a Y position property. And that makes it easier for us to animate just the vertical. Okay, because then we could use the value graph editor, and I know you might be scared of math, but the value graph editor is amazing and it will really help you customize how things are slowing down and speeding up, which is a good skill to have. Okay, so once you separate out your dimensions, you'll find that your position properties X and Y are both selected, which is not what we want. So we got to click off of everything. Now, if you're not able to click off, just make sure you're in the selection tool, all right? Okay, so I scroll down and I want to animate all the balls together, and then I'm going to animate all of the stripes together. Okay, so just a second, someone's calling. Okay, every day I move the phone out of my office, and every day magically and mystically it comes back. All right, sorry about that. Here we go. So I have my balls. I'm going to animate them coming into place. But how long does it take for them to come to place? Enter my screen capture. Now you can cheat off of other people's animations as well, as long as you don't pass it off as your own, by screen capturing video using either QuickTime if you're on a Mac, and there's an option under the File menu to create a new screen recording, which is nice. And on a PC, you can use OBS. Matter of fact, OBS is available for both Mac and PC, and it's free. It's kind of nice. So that's how I captured this itty bitty video right here. So I'm going to take my playhead and I'm going to move it forward until I see that the first ball in the reference video has fallen all the way down. Okay, so I'm just going back and forth using command or control left and right arrow. There we go. So this is about 20 frames that it took for the first ball to land. So I'm going to select all my ball layers. So layers 17 down through 24. And I'm going to turn on the Y position stopwatch when my playhead is at 20 frames. Okay, fabulous. Then I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to move all those guys up into the sky and past the top of the composition viewer. So I'm just using my shift and arrow up to bring those all the way up top. Okay, and again, if anyone is having trouble with this, please let me know in the chat if you're viewing this live, or you can drop questions into the comments. So I don't want to see any of the balls at the very top of their movement, and if the layer handles are getting in the way of your experience, you can always hold Command-Shift-H on a Mac or Control-Shift-H on a PC in order to hide those. Whoa, sorry, not Control. Sorry. Let me undo. Okay, Control-Shift-H, and that hides your layer handles. The layers are still selected, but now those handles aren't getting in my way. All right, so everything has been moved up, and then they all move down, okay? So if I hit the space bar, we'll see them fall. Not very exciting, and certainly nothing like what we saw in the finished animation, but we're not done yet. So we have to delay these, all right? And we're gonna delay them so that the last ball hits at about, I'd say 29 or 30 frames, okay? So I'm gonna click off of everything, and then I select layer 24, and I'm just gonna move that all the way out like so, okay? And how much did I move it? I don't even know. So I've got to right click up here, go to columns and choose in, and I can see that I moved it out by 10 frames, okay? So I'm gonna continue to move these guys. Whoops, but I forgot to animate everything going off screen. So let's just go back a couple of steps, all right? So going back, and everything leaves the frame around here, okay? So I'm gonna select all of these balls once more, and I'm gonna move with my hand tool and just shift arrow down to get all those balls off screen. And if it's taking too long, you can always change your resolution down to like quarter and do it that way. Alternatively, you can just drag your Y position downward, and that can kind of work faster too. So it's going down, 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 and finally they exit. Okay, I want there to be an ease on the middle keyframes. So I'm holding Shift and drawing little boxes, and then I hit F9 or right click Keyframe Assist Easy Ease. All right, next we've got to delay them. And remember, this third ball actually started moving down. If I'm looking at my reference video, it started moving down at around frame 32. So I'm going to take that last layer content bar with my selection tool and just drag it so that this middle keyframe is right there at frame 32. And then I'm going to stagger the rest of my layers so that they kind of take turns falling down. So if my last frame starts at frame 12, okay, my last circle, then I need to stagger all of these other guys accordingly. So 8 ball number 1 starts at 0. 8 ball number 2 can start at like 1 frame. Then we can do 3 frames. Then we can do maybe 5 frames. I'm just guessing, friends. I'm just guessing. We'll see whether it looks good or whether it looks bad in just a moment. So here we go. There's 9. Then let's do 10, 11. Let's do 11. Okay, let's see how that looks. So just playing that back. And it looks okay, but there's something that's kind of missing. And the thing that's missing is like we want to match this curve, okay? So in order to match the curve, we probably need to adjust some of these other layer starts. So I'm just gonna move those just 1 earlier, okay? So it starts off, it goes 0, then 1, then 2, okay? Then 4, so it's an increment of 2 frames here. And then we go 6, 8, 10, and this last one, I think I'll cheat and make it 13 instead of 12, okay? So that's a bigger difference at the end there. I'm also going to really slow down those layers when they hit that middle point. So I'm going to select all these middle guys and I'm going to slow them down quite a lot. Let's do that. Let's just go in here and holding Shift to get them all. And if you're seeing too much information here, what you can do is just hit letter U and then it'll only show you the Y position. Okay, so I want this to get really, really slow in here, and then I want it to get much faster at the end. So I can select all these last guys, matter of fact, and I can give them an ease as well. And then I can go into my graph. And in the graph, which I know if you've never used it before, it might look kind of funny. We want the value graph. And you can get to it just by clicking this little guy right here. Now, again, if you're having trouble finding stuff that I'm clicking on, just let me know in the chat or the comments. All right, next we're going to go to Fit All Graphs to View, which is the double noodle button here. And if you're not seeing the value graph, like if your graph looks like arches instead of this sloping curve, click on the second little button down here for Choose Graph Type and Options and choose Value Graph. It might be the speed graph instead, which, while beautiful, is a little harder to use. So here's the value graph, okay? And I'm going to take these little lines with my selection tool, and the last keyframes, I'm just going to make them faster just by tilting their speed downward. And then I'm going to take all these middle guys and I'm going to pull them to the right. And as I pull, if I hold the shift key down, it's going to lock it to the horizontal. And that means that it's going to keep that value for just a little while longer. Now, the way that the value graph works, steepness equals speed. So if it's shallow, that means it's really slow. It's like slowed down to a crawl. And each keyframe gets handles to either side. So it gets a handle as you're coming into the keyframe, into the keyframe, and as you're coming out of the keyframe, okay? So it's really important that you manipulate both sides. Like, how are you getting into the parking spot and how are you getting out of the parking spot, right? So I'm going to pull this guy outward a little bit as well. And this guy gets pulled out a lot. And then remember, these guys at the end are going to have their value pretty fast. So I'm just like drawing, if you can't select them, just go back to your regular view and then you can give yourself a little more real estate right here. Select all these, boom, boom, go back to your graph, and then you can just pull that down like so. Okay, and that should be pretty fun. Nice. All right, so the next thing we need to do is get those stripes to come up. And the stripes are going to be paced very similar to our circles. So it's going to be 20 frames for them to each come up. So let's scroll down, locate our, I called them squares, they're actually stripes. Locate those, and at 20 frames, I'm going to turn on the Y position stopwatch next to one of them. Then I'm going to hit the letter U key, and hitting letter U, I'll just see the Y position. And then I go back in time, and using my hand tool, I'm just going to scoot up so I can see the bottom there. And then with shift and arrow down, moving all of those stripes down. Ah, come on. There you go. It's taking a minute. So I can also, or alternatively, just drag this value bigger. There we go. And the value that you want is going to be big enough so you don't see any of it. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. All right, fabulous. So they are completely off screen, and if you're not really sure, you can do Command-Shift-H or Control-Shift-H on a PC. Beautiful. All right, so these guys are also going to be really slow coming into here. So I'm going to hit F9 right there, okay? Now, I want them to be just as slow as they were, as the balls were when the balls came down, okay? So what I can do is I can check on the speed of my second keyframe on the balls. The way you do it is by right-clicking the keyframe and going to Keyframe Velocity. Now, this isn't a perfect system. I would ordinarily use an After Effects script called Ease Copy, but this works just fine. Keyframe velocity, and the incoming velocity on that second keyframe for the balls is about 42%. Okay, 42% influence. That's like the magnetism that that keyframe has over the layer. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to change all of these guys to have the same velocity. So right click, keyframe velocity, incoming 43. Hit OK. And let's take a look at the graph. And that's a pretty, decent velocity. What it was before, it was shorter, and now the handle is longer. Okay. Next, we want to stagger our layers for the stripes that were coming up, and we want to stagger them in the same order as the balls came down. So I'm just going to make a quick note. It went 0, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 13. So I can use the same endpoints, 0, 1, and I click and type in the in column, friends. You don't drag. Look what happens when you drag. Ew, that's so gross. The layer start is changing without the keyframes following. This is not what we want. So 0, 1, 2, you click in the in column, you type the number, and you hit OK. All right, so 0, 1, 2, and then it went 4, 6, 8, 10, 13. 4, click 6, click 8, and then we had 10. Ooh, not 4, 10. Let's try that again. And then we had 14. 14? No, 13. All right, fabulous. So we've got that happening. Let's play it back and make sure it looks okay. So I can change my zoom to fit, hit spacebar and play that back. Now you may have noticed that something's missing here, friends. And the thing that's missing is that inversion that happens. So when the balls fall, they invert when they cross over the stripes. I know, it looks so cool, right? So we actually need to kind of fake it. And the way that we fake it is by pre-composing. So what we're going to do is we're going to pre-compose the balls together, which is basically putting them in bags, as my buddy Jill would say. Or you can take the, in addition, we're going to take the stripes and put them in their own bag or pre-composition. And then we're going to do a little bit of matting, okay? So let's take all the balls first. Ball number 1 and shift click ball number 8. And I go to layer menu pre-compose. And I always preface my pre-compositions the same way. I type PC and then dash, okay? And then after I do that, I'm going to write what it is. So I'm going to call this 8 balls. And I hit OK. And I like to adjust the comp duration to the time span of the selected layers. I like to move all attributes. I don't need to open it. Not yet. I hit OK. All right, so that has been pre-composed. Next, I'm going to do the same thing with the squares, and it doesn't matter what order you select the stripes. So I select them all, layer pre-compose, and that's going to be PC 8 stripes. Okay, now notice in the original, the stripes don't actually change color. The balls do. So once it crosses through, the balls actually change color. So we need to have 2 versions of the balls. We need to have the balls as this current color, but we also need to have them in a yellow, white arrangement. So in order to do that, I need to go up here to the project window, locate the PC8 balls, and duplicate that guy. So edit, duplicate. And it's okay if it's just called balls 2, not a big deal. And I'm going to double click that and change its color. What color? Well, I'm going to go into my screen grabs layer, which I can get to right inside that folder, no problem. Drag and drop it right on top here. And I don't want this to export. This would be bad if it exported. Let's drag it down to the bottom. And we're dealing with the first one right there, so I could even mask it. Okay, and once I've masked it, I'm also going to guide it. And when you set a layer to be a guide, that actually keeps it from exporting. And it also keeps it from showing up when you take this pre-composition and put it into another comp, okay? So this is just really for us. Okay, so our first ball is supposed to be yellow because it goes yellow, white, yellow, white, yellow, white, yellow, white, right? So the first ball is supposed to be yellow and the second ball is supposed to be white. I'm going to select all the balls and I'm going to convert them to shape layers. I do this by right-clicking, going to Create, and choosing Create Shapes from Vector Layer. Okay, hit letter U to make sure all your keyframes are still there, which they are. And technically you don't really need to keep the originals. Some people like to. I don't know. I'm just going to bring up the shape layer versions so I don't get confused. And it's supposed to go yellow, white, right? So yellow is all the odd numbered ones. Sorry, friends. I was using a Mac earlier today and it like screwed up all of my hotkeys. Okay, so I'm going to select every other one, 1, 3, 5, 7. I'm going to go to my shape tool. And the cool thing is when you're in the shape tool or the selection tool, when you have a shape layer selected, it lets you change the fill color of all selected shapes at the same time, which is really awesome. So you click the little fill color, you click the eyedropper, and you come up here, and we want the first, third, fifth, and seventh to be yellow, and then I hit OK. And then I want the other guys, all the even numbered balls, to be white. So click the fill, click the eyedropper, click the white. Okay, fancy. All right. Oh, I know, LW, that I love the guide one. I use that all the time. So we've got our yellow and our white, but now, like, how do we get that to all kind of fit together? I'll show you. You take your second ball comp. Okay, remember how we duplicated it so that we had one that was colorful and we had one that was white and yellow? You're going to duplicate it down in the timeline as well. So edit, duplicate in the timeline. And then I'm going to also duplicate the stripes because we want the stripes to be visible, and then we want the invisible version of it. We want the opaque areas of the invisible version of it to work as a mat. And here's how that's going to be done. So the 8 stripes in the timeline, I'm also going to duplicate. I take the 8 stripes, I'm going to drag it up one level, well, a bunch of levels. I'm going to put it up above 8 stripes, sorry, above 8 balls. And I'm going to take one of these 8 balls and I'm going to replace by option dragging, okay? So let's just check this. This is the one that's supposed to be on top. Yeah, this is the one that's only visible. So this is our orange and green, and I can just like rename it, hitting return, orange, green. This is the one that I want to show through the opaque areas of my stripes. So I need to bring up my matte column. And if you don't have your matte column visible, click where it says toggle switches and modes. And that's just a poorly designed button that should help you pull up your switches and modes or your blend. So this is your switches, this is your blending modes. Select the orange green layer and change the matte to alpha matte, the stripes. And look at that. It looks almost exactly like what's going on down here. Okay. So let's play that back. All right, so we've got the hardest part done. If you think about it, that first one was the hardest one. And that's because we were kind of explaining things and whatnot. Now, if you are, if you want to reconfigure some of your animations so that it suits you better, just remember, you'll have to do the same thing to both the balls comps because they're not connected to each other anymore. So what I would personally do is I would just take that orange, I'd probably take the balls 2 comp because it's got everything in it. I would make any changes to that and then duplicate it again and replace it through, because otherwise, like, you're just gonna have to do the whole shape layer color thing once more as well. But hopefully you're happy with this timing. Okay, now you'll notice that in the reference video, I've made markers as to when each section begins. So the 8 section began at the beginning of the clip. The 4 section starts right here. Okay, so don't worry, we're still going to finish at 7 o'clock Eastern, but this 4 section starts right here. Even though we're only a quarter of the way through, the rest of it's much easier. So I'm going to take my 4 balls and my 4 stripes and turn on their visibility. I'm going to start them at this point in time. I can just shorten their layers up like so. And I'm going to move my playhead forward to the point where that first ball hits the middle. Okay? Yes, this is recorded, so you'll be able to watch the recording later on at the same link, which is kind of nice. So don't worry about that, Toby. So here we go. Right at about 40 frames is where everything lands. So I turn on the stopwatch next to Y, okay, and then I can hit letter I, and that'll take me to the beginning of that layer content bar. And I'm just gonna select the balls, because see, I keyframed the balls and the stripes all where they're supposed to land because they all have the same timing. It's just one set comes down, the other set comes up. Then I take those balls and I move everything up into the sky, and I can do that numerically just by dragging this value upward. Keep dragging, come on. Holding shift to drag a little faster. And if I'm worried I went too far into the sky, just Command Shift H or Control Shift H so you can see those layer handles once more. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my stripes, except they're going to move downward. So my stripes, I'm going to just drag the Y position down. All right. And that's going to keep moving down. There we go. Beautiful. So now the stripes move up while the balls move down. Okay. And then we need to animate the balls moving down as well. And the balls, I'm going to pretend, because I'm not really sure, that they fall down right by here. Sure, like around 53 or so frames. So I'm going to select all the ball layers and just move their Y position down so that they leave the frame. Okay. All right, and then I take the middle keyframes for the balls, and I'm going to hit F9 to turn them easy ease. And I'm going to take the last keyframes actually and also easy ease them. And this is where my ease copy comes in really handy. So I go to the window menu and I pull up ease copy. Alternatively, I could go back into the graph, no problem. And I'm going to have to access my balls. So if I go into the balls layer, I select this guy, hit letter U, I can see all my keyframes. I can select those keyframes, and using the ease copy window, I can click copy. Now, if you don't have ease copy, it's one of the best things I've ever bought for After Effects, and you can find it at aescripts.com. And it lets you copy eases or values, whereas usually you're copying both. So here I like the eases, and in my layered coins comp, I like the values, and I just want to copy the eases and not the values. So I selected those keyframes. I clicked copy in ease copy. I went back to layered coins. I'm going to select these keyframes here. Well, let's hit letter U and just select the keyframes. And I'm going to paste only the eases. Okay, and if you're not really sure if that worked, you can always go to the graph, take a look, click ease. Okay, maybe that didn't work. They weren't selected. Let's try again. Let's go back to here. All right. They are refusing to stay selected. Come on, friends, stay selected already. You can also do this in the graph editor itself, and I can just click paste ease and see how the handles shifted. Pretty cool, right? All right, so then we go back to here, and all those balls will have the same eases as their predecessors. So let me just change their start times. And I actually can, yeah, I'll change their start times first things first. So let's do like 2 frames there and maybe 3 frames here. And I'm just pulling from the inside of the layer content bar, remember. And then this one, maybe I'll give it 4 frames. So yeah, I think that's pretty decent, but maybe I want to give them a little more of a delay. And maybe undo. Maybe I want to pull these keyframes out as well, just a few. Yeah, I think that should be pretty good. Just to kind of try to stay true to the original. Because remember, the 2 balls are going to land on top of this and they're going to obscure things. Okay, now I really liked this ease. I really liked how these 4 balls fell down. Let's play that back. Okay, I liked how that happened, and I want to copy the same ease to the 4 square, like the 4 stripes that come up. Okay, now if you're starting to get a little bit lost, here's what I would suggest. What I would suggest is that you turn off the visibilities of the layers below. Alternatively, what you can do is just take the layers that you're currently working on and click the little solo switch, okay? And the navy blue is getting a bit lost against that black background, so I turn on the transparent grid, also known as the I miss Photoshop button. So that helps sometimes so that you can see things a bit more clearly, just like isolating the one thing that you're working on or the couple things that you're working on. Okay, and let me just shorten up the work area right here so we can see that section. Okay, all right, so I like this. I want to give these last keyframes the same love as these keyframes had. So I'm going to go to my ease copy window and I'm going to trash whatever's been copied into it. I'm going to select these 2 keyframes and I'm going to click on copy in the ease copy window, and then I'm going to select all of these friends and I'm going to paste the ease. Okay, and then I need to just put the same in values for these 4 layers. So the first one's fine. The first one's 25. Then let me just make sure like this. So the next one's at 27. So I'm just going to grab from inside the layer content bar. See, keyframes moved. Then this one is at 31 because it corresponds with this ball. 31. And then the last one corresponds with the last ball, which is at 36. Okay, so let's play that back. Then we're going to do the exact same trick that we did before to change the color. Okay, so I can take all the balls, layer pre-compose, PC 4 ball, done. I'm going to take all the stripes, layer pre-compose, PC 4 stripe, done. And then up here, I'm going to take my 4 ball and I'm going to duplicate it. Now I have 4 ball 2. Double click 4 ball 2. I'm going to make sure that I can see the old color and the new color. And remember, we've got our screen grabs layer inside our layered coins. I'm just going to plop that over here. And we want number 4, which is this guy. So I'm just going to take the little mask, draw a little mask, and guide it. And an alternative, if you don't want to change your Illustrator layers to shape layers, is to use an effect. So you could do that. you would just go over here to Effects and Presets, type in Fill, and double click the Fill effect from the Generate. And then I would change that to the orange. So just grabbing that eyedropper, coming over here and choosing the orange. Now this is a little bit imprecise, friends. So if you have exact hex codes that you need to be using, please by all means click into the color and type in the hex code there. But because I'm not like matching some existing brand guideline or something, I'm just doing it with the eyedropper. So then I could take that same effect, click the word fill and copy it, select ball number 3 and paste. And then ball number 2 is going to be this lighter color, fill, there's that green, select the word fill up top and copy, and then paste it to ball number 4. Okay, cool. So this is now recolored, and I'm going to take my ball and my stripe layers and duplicate them in my layered coins comp. Ta-da! And then I'm going to take my 4 ball and I'm going to replace it with 4 ball 2. Option drag to replace. I'm going to take one of my stripes, and I've got to look at my reference video. Let's turn on that solo switch. Oh yeah. All right, so I actually want 4 ball, which was the one that had the white and blue, to look through the stripe. So I'm going to rename 4 ball to be white blue. And then in the alpha matte track matte column, change the ball to be alpha matting the stripe. All right, let's unsolo things. Oh yeah, so we've got like the whole first half done, and the second half is even easier. All right, so here we go. We've got that whole first half done. Let me just press the space bar to preview. Okay, and then we need to do number 2. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it like that. We need to animate the second layout. Here we go. So I'm going to turn on the visibility of all of those things, and let's start it where the marker is. So I can just shorten up the layers, or option left bracket. So the left bracket being the one that's like right next to letter P on your keyboard. And then I'm going to move this forward until that first ball hits the middle in the reference video. See that? So I'm just advancing using Command or Control left and right arrow. Actually, I'm kind of old school. I'm using page up and page down. I know, that's so old school. So here we go. So like right around page 65. Oh, how did I make a marker? Good question, Toby. The way you make a marker is by going to Layer menu, Markers, Add Marker. Alternatively, if you have an extended keyboard, like I have this like long keyboard, you can use the asterisk on the number pad, or this one's really wild, Shift number 8. Shift 8 will let you make a marker, and then you can name the marker just by double clicking the marker and putting in a comment like, hey. And then you can get rid of it by holding the Command key on a Mac, Control key on a PC, and clicking with the world's smallest scissors. And it gets rid of it. All right, you're welcome. So we've got our second ball, or our 2 balls, and our 2 stripes that are going to come in next, and they land at about frame 65. So I'm going to turn on the Y position for all of them, hit letter U to see that more easily, and then I'm going to go to the beginning of this layer. So click, hit letter I, and then with both these guys selected, I'm just going to move them up into the sky. And I didn't do this before. You can just hold Shift and drag. That works. Okay, and we don't want them too far up because then it's going to screw up our timing. I'm going to take my 2 stripes. I'm going to move them downward. Hold Shift as I do. And there we go. Very nice. And I want everybody to get an ease in the middle. And I want the 2 balls to fall down. And they should probably fall like around this long. Of course, we don't see it because this one giant one falls into place, but that's okay. And I'm just gonna hold shift and drag all those guys downward. Nice. I'm gonna turn everybody in the middle into an ease. I'm gonna turn these last guys into an ease. I'm gonna locate the 8 balls. I'm gonna select all those guys, and I'm gonna trash the existing, and I'm gonna copy the ease. Now again, if you don't have ease copy, all is not lost. You can always do something like it by right-clicking and choosing Keyframe Velocity. Now if it's a keyframe that's in the middle of other keyframes, you're gonna have to make a note of roughly what both of these numbers are. And then if it's a keyframe at the end, you'll have to make note of what the first one is. And if it's the keyframe at the beginning and it's an ease, if it's linear, forget about it. You don't have to worry about it. But if it's the first keyframe and it's an ease, you'll have to check the keyframe velocity outgoing. Okay? All right, so trash if there are any, and then I'm going to copy my eases here, and then I'm going to go over to layered coins, and I'm going to paste my eases on these guys. Paste ease, and then I'm going to copy these eases, just these two, trash and copy, and then select those guys and paste. And again, if you're not sure if it actually eased, go to your graph, select that stuff, the big old box, and then paste the ease, and you'll see that the handle actually changes a little bit. Okay, and then we just want to delay this a little bit. So, whoa, that did not delay. That went earlier. Not cool. So I did like a 3-frame delay. That might be enough. Let's see. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. And so the second one of these guys will also be at frame 50, right? And then once again, we gotta pre-compose. So here's the 2 ball layers. Pre-compose them. Here's the 2 stripes. Pre-compose them. And then we go into the, well, we have to duplicate the ball. Now, if you like forget or lose the actual comp that the thing is based on, just right click it, go to reveal and choose layer source in project. And then you can take that guy, you can duplicate it, and then we're gonna double click that. I said double click it. And then just making sure I can see everything. I'm gonna grab my reference. This is the 2 one. So just making a little box around like that. Very nice. Right click, guide layer. Ball number 1 is going to be this coral color. So I'll do the fill trick once more. There we go. And ball number 2 is going to be this kind of cyan. So there we go. All right. And then I'm going to go back to layered coins, and I'm going to duplicate 2 ball right here. Okay, edit, duplicate. And I'm going to swap the duplicated 2 ball, option drag to replace. And I actually want this one underneath, which is the navy and yellow, to be matted. So I'm going to rename that blue, yellow. And I'm going to take the stripe layer, the 2 stripe layer, and I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to take blue, yellow, and the stripe and just plop them right above the other 2 guys. Remember, the stripe has to go on top. The stripe is the window that you're looking through. Now, whenever you make that matting connection, you can't move layers in between them anymore because the underneath layer is always going to be looking up a level for its mat. So here we go. None is now going to be alpha matte. And there we go. So now that matches our other-ish. Wait, what happened? Hold on. Yes, it does. All right, here we go. Yeah, that's better. It's not exactly what Eddy had done for his, but we can live for now. We can always go back in and fuss with it. And then we've got just our single ball and our single block. Now here's the thing, friends. This block is the whole size of the entire composition. And that's actually a good thing. I want it to fill up the whole frame. So I'm just going to select that layer and hit reset, and it's going to put it right in the middle. What happened was originally I designed it a different size, and then I changed some things, and then it, you know, kind of got unlinked. So I'm going to take this guy and move it down some. So our composition settings, if we look at it under composition menu, composition settings, the vertical is 1920. So this bottommost area is actually 1920 pixels. If I want to move this so that we only see half of it, I really only need to move it in Y position until this reads 1920. Ta-da! Look at that. So this is where the stripe ends up. So I'm just going to go back a little bit to right around here, I guess. And I'm going to turn on the stopwatch next to Y position. And I'm going to go to start 1. And I'm going to take the block and move it all the way down. So I'm animating the block first this time, which is a little bit different than what we've done historically. But that's okay. You will adapt. Okay, and then after it comes up halfway, it actually continues going all the way up and then past the end of the entire composition. So I'm just going to move it up, which you can do just by dragging and holding the shift key down. Drag, 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 almost all the way off. And the reason why is because we eventually want this to like wipe off at the end. So if I go back to the beginning, see how there's like no color? Here we actually want it also to have no color. Or it could have like a little stripe of it, you know? So that goes up there. This is going to have its F9 and F9. Whoops, F9. So I have eases on the middle, so it kind of pauses slightly and then gets faster at the end. Let's leave that there. And then I'm going to do the same kind of thing with our ball. So the ball is going to end up right about here. Fine. I'm going to turn on the Y position. I'm going to go back to where the stripe began, and I'm going to move the ball up into the sky because everything is following the same formula. There's something really satisfying and almost meditative about this piece because it's just like following the same formula over and over again. Like I've spent hours watching it. So at any rate, we move the ball up into the sky. I'm going to shorten these guys so they start right here. Okay. I'm going to take this second keyframe and turn it into an ease. And matter of fact, I'm going to move this guy downward. And that automatically turns into an ease as well. And I'm going to find my 2 ball, which has the 3 keyframes that I know and love. I'm going to copy those into ease copy. I'm going to go back into layered coins. And I'm going to paste my eases right here. And matter of fact, I'm going to paste my eases here as well. Okay, and finally, we can do the matting part right here in this same composition. So I take my block, I duplicate my block, I drag it above the ball, I take the ball, I duplicate the ball, and this ball needs to be yellow on top, right? So I take the underneath version, and that's going to be yellow. So I'm gonna double click the fill effect, click the eyedropper, click the little screen capture there, and then my original ball is white, and I'm going to set its alpha matte, so I'm going to call this ball to white, set its alpha matte to the block. Ta-da! Okay, so pretty much done here. If I just extend this out to the end, you will see that we have recreated insert coin to continue. All right, fun. Now as a very last step, let me show you how you can make this into a true cycle. Now, right now, this is a true cycle, of course. It just starts and ends on navy blue. And the problem with that is that if you upload this to Instagram or if you export this as a GIF or GIF, you're going to end up with your poster image or freeze frame as just this sea of blue. And that's not really very nice. So what I do instead is I take my main composition, I drag it into a new composition. Okay, so we've nested it. We've put it into another bag. And I find a beautiful frame. So maybe it's this frame. I think that's pretty nice. And what I do is I simply take that frame and I cut the video at that point in time. Okay, now here's the thing. The video is already a loop, like my rubber band. Okay, all we're doing is changing where we're starting the loop. So if I mark the rubber band here, and that is the beginning of the loop where it's all blue, all we're doing is we're shifting it some. Okay, so it's starting at a different point. So I take this layer, edit, split layer, which is like a razor blade tool in any other program. And then I simply change first and last parts. So I drag this one to the left, holding shift, dragging from the middle. I take the first chunk and drag it to the right from the middle, holding shift. And there you have it. And then I just export to MP4 and I'm good to go. All right? Fabulous. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you've not subscribed yet, please do, or consider subscribing. Every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, I have a new demo, either character animation or motion graphics. The one that I'm doing for next week is actually another motion graphics-ish piece inspired by Leon Bridges. So an album cover, and we're going to be animating that album cover. It was already animated as a YouTube music promo that was on a billboard in Times Square, and we're going to animate it together. All right, so I hope you have a fantastic week, and I hope you'll stay in touch through social media. And if you have any recommendations for future tutorials, please drop them in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. All right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.